Okay guys, welcome back to another section of painting and weathering the Hannebu II. If you missed out on the previous chapters, you can still see those. Click on the link above. If you don't have one and you want to build this with us, or you want to build one in your own time, click on that link. They're still available. And let's get at it. Alright, we're finally done with all the masking. I got the bottom piece done, as you can see. I also taped off the wheel wells and put some aluminum paint in there, but we'll come back with that later when we finally detail the Hannebu. So I also have the four ball turrets done, as you can see. So they're all done. They all will be eventually, after weathering, they can be mounted into their openings there. And of course we have the main disc, the top and the bunker. Before we can continue, of course, with the weathering, I need to apply the decals. As you can see, it's only a small sheet, so it's not going to take a long time. Once the decals are applied, then the last thing to do is apply a coat of polyurethane varnish from Vallejo. I prefer the satin varnish. The glossy, that doesn't really fit this purpose. Out of experience, the polyurethane satin varnish to me works both on armor and on aircraft. It's so far the best out there. Let's get at it. Let's start with cutting out some decals. Since I'm familiar with the Hannebu kit, I'm going to use the number 3 again. I did it on the prototype, so I'm going to do it on this kit too. So I'm going to start out with cutting out the 4 number 3s we have. It's going to be 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And also for this purpose, I have a little bit of microsol, so we're gonna use that just to make sure that the decals will adhere properly and really will form around any detail, because there's some riveting going on. I'm sure that the microsol will do the trick. So all you need to apply decals is a little mini scissors or the regular scissors, it doesn't matter, but little scissors are always a little bit more handy because of their size. A brush, it doesn't matter what kind of a brush, and some tweezers, and then you're good to go. Let's start with the bottom. Apply some microsol. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. Pay attention, especially on the underside, and applying the 3, because although you look straight at it, eventually the bottom part will be, of course, at the bottom, but it will also be upside down. Make always sure that you check that you get your number 3s in the correct position, because if you don't pay attention, you might be a little bit confused, and then once they're dry, and then you put it upside down, also your numbers will be upside down. So always make sure when you look at them that you can read them. Once they're all positioned and centered, just go over it a little bit with microsol, and then just let them dry, and then in the meantime you can apply some other detail. So let's take care of the bottom first, so we can put that out of the way. There's only a few decals that belong there. The next one I'm going to do is the letter H, and then we might as well cut out one of the swastikas and 2 of the Balkan croces. As you could tell, I did not apply a glossy coat of varnish, so the decals would adhere better. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it doesn't. I personally don't like adding on coats or layers of paint or varnish. That's up to you. If you think you're more safe or more secure by adding another layer of glossy varnish for the decals, please feel free to do so. Now the whole, as you can see, the contrast is really very heavy. You got the gray, you got the green, you got the light blue gray. Everything is in contrast with each other, but once you start adding the weathering and you work with the oils, it will all blend in, and it will not be as aggressive as it looks now. So you just have to be patient. I'm gonna have the swastika on top here. So now the only thing we need to do for the bottom is adding the 2 German crosses on there on both sides. And then the last one for the bottom. There you go. So now we're practically done with the bottom, and now we can put that aside and let it dry, and then we can do this same thing on the top. Now, as you can see, I already mounted the top bunker, but it's not glued in, so eventually after the decaling I will take that out. Before I put a coat of varnish over there, I'm going to remove the top bunker from the top half of the saucer, and I'm going to keep it that way until I'm completely done with weathering, and then mount it back in place. So for now I'm going to leave it up there, and I'm going to apply all the decal on the top side. I'll always double check once you add the insignia on top of the saucer that you align the trees up also and the crosses so that they're in exact location of each other. Okay, since we applied the last decal here in front of the bunker, just double check if everything is in place, if you don't have any film or if it needs some more solvent. But so far everything looks in position, everything looks fine. So now I'm going to put it away for at least an hour, so it will give the decals ample time to retract and to form around the detail. It will also give ample time to dry properly. I would suggest leaving it between an hour and a half before we apply the flat coat. We'll put that aside, and then in the meantime we can do something else. The decals are on there, they're dry, they formed around the detail. Decals are excellent actually. Now the next step before we can finally do the weathering is to flat coat the whole thing. So as you can see, I already took the top turret off just to be able to handle it a little bit better, and I got all the parts ready that needs to be flat coated. For that purpose I'm going to use the polyurethane satin varnish from Vallejo. I usually use a mixture of about 3/5 of thinner. I just use the regular airbrush thinner from Vallejo. I use about 3 parts thinner and 2 parts of varnish. Let's mix some in a cup and let's start clear coating the whole thing. I already shook it like a minute or so. Make sure, because when you look at this it gets like a milky look to it, so make sure you shake it at least 1 minute before using it, and then you should be fine. It's a little milky, but don't worry about it. It will all dry up very even. It will form a nice satin coat. It's a very good platform to work on. You saw me squirting some of the varnish in there, and then afterwards I did the airbrush. When I said I used like 2 parts of varnish and 3 parts of thinner, actually I did it so many times that I got a pretty good feeling just to do it straight out of the bottle. So first I'm going to try it on one of the little cupolas, the bottom one of the bottom ball turrets actually. Once you start varnishing it, you'll see it looks like a little pebbly, and then you might get a little bit worried about it, but don't worry at all, because when it's all dried up, it all will become uniform. It will all be a smooth coat, although it might look a little bit off once you apply the wet varnish on there. Once it dries up, it will all become a nice smooth layer. So just make sure you reach every part. You don't want any spots that are left uncovered, because that will cause a lot of problems once you start weathering. So I'm going to get these big parts out of the way first, and then move on with the smaller one. I just want to make some room on my bench here. Here we go. When you look at your disc here, you can see there's 3 segments, 3 components of the top disc, and 2 on the bottom. But just to give some guideline, once you start airbrushing the varnish on, the varnish dries quickly, and sometimes you don't know where you are or where you left off. So I would do it like 1 section at a time. So then you know, once you covered 1 section, you move on to the next one. So eventually you'll end up back where you started, and you know you got everything covered. Since the area that you have to cover is a lot, and you have to open your nozzle quite a bit, it doesn't hurt to check once in a while that you don't have any buildup on the top of your airbrush, just for all safety purposes, just clean it out a little bit with a brush. I think we're almost there. Looks good. I can already see that there is a very nice sheen on it, almost flat, but still enough sheen to make it look realistic. You don't want a flat coat, that might not be as attractive, but for what I can tell now, I can already tell eventually it's gonna look amazing once we're done with the weathering. Don't be frugal on the varnish, just put a thick coat over there so you have a very good platform to work on. You don't want to run the risk, once you apply some of the washes, and most of them are enamel and oils, that you're going to rub through the varnish and eventually hit the paint, and even worse, go straight down to the plastic. So you really want to secure this as much as you can. So now let's do the other pieces. I'm going to put this out of the way for now. Do the other big part so we can get that out of the way. And again, same thing. We'll start on one side and we'll work our way around. And it's also best to do this in a ventilated area, because opening the nozzle to the white setting releases a lot of mist actually. So well, I hope I got it all. It's sometimes very hard to see where you left off, but I think I got it all pretty much. So I'm going to put that out of the way. Okay, now the only thing we need to do is finish off the 3 other cupolas here, and then we're done. So, and here you have it. This is the last tiny thing I had to varnish. So now we have to put it away, and at least I would advise to put it at least away 24, 36, 48 hours before you can start weathering. I'm sure in the meantime you can start painting the landing gear and the wheels and the wheel doors and all. So okay friends, here you have it. We added the decals on. We put a clear coat over the whole thing. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we're going to let it dry for about 36 hours, maybe 48. And then we'll tackle the weathering when we come back. So up until then, that's it for now. Jeff V here, signing off.